Go ahead.
So what motivated me to start on women's issues is when I did my finished my first level degree, my BA. I did it in business administration from the American University of Beirut, and I was looking for a job. So I went looking for a job, and what they wanted is to appoint me as a secretary. And I said, I don't know typing. It's true, I did business administration, but I have a BA degree. I mean, I did not study secretarial work. It's not that secretaries are a demeaning work, but this is not my specialization. They always associate women with secretaries. So this is when I started thinking about the discrimination and the stereotyping of women. And then, lo and behold, when I did my master's thesis, when I wrote it, I did it on women's opportunities, job opportunities for women graduates in the labor market. So I took Lebanon as a case study, and I interviewed women graduates at the time. They were manageable. That was in 1970. I did my master's. So we had 5 universities, and I focused on the American University of Beirut, the graduates since it started, whoever is still alive. And I interviewed them, and I did my MA thesis. Yeah, and it was really a breakthrough for in research, because the results showed that women like to go into research, and they are forced to go into jobs that is because of no other alternatives, either secretaries or nurses or teachers, even teachers, high school teachers. So and then my MA thesis was published in the Middle East Journal of Studies because of the results were breaking news, a breakthrough for women. And then I joined the UN, the United Nations, and as an economist, because my master's was political economy more or less, or economics. So when I joined the UN, I started working on economic issues, foreign trade, regional integration, and so on. And then I moved to women's issues. I took over the women's department. It was a small program, and I started with the UN, United Nations World Conferences, which started in 1975. I took over I moved to the women's issues in 1993 or 1994. And I was doing my PhD at the time, actually. So my interest in women's issues started growing as of that time, really. I mean, it was boiling when I did my master's, but then when I moved to women's issues in the department itself, I started finding discrimination against women is very huge in the region, in the Arab region. And our commission serves the Arab countries. And I was preparing them for the Beijing conference in 1995. So I felt that I saw from research, from studies, how much women have been discriminated against, and I felt this is against human rights. So I started working on poverty issues, feminization of poverty. I started working on the CEDAW, and different countries in the region and how they tackle it. And my goals have changed, because I feel that women's issues have to be now tackled with a new vision. And this is why in my intervention today, I said we've been working on these issues, and we've improved a bit. but there's a lot. The road is still long and bumpy, and maybe the new generation has to be attracted to be interested in women's issues as human rights issues, because the world is held by women and men, and it cannot fly with one wing. So women and men should collaborate, should work together. We're not at a war with men. So my goals from that angle have changed, because I feel that no matter how much education women get, no matter how much work and economic independence they achieve, if they have no stake and no share in decision making, then no improvements will be tangible. And so I'm involved in the Women's Leadership Project in public office. There are mentors and there are mentees. I'm one of them. And so my goals are to work on the younger generation and to show that they should work together, young men and women, because women's issues and concerns are not only women's concerns, they are social concerns. They are the concerns of all the society. So everybody has to be involved. Otherwise, a lot is being lost at the national level. At the national level, if only half of the population are producing, productivity is less. As an economist, I'm talking now, not as a political scientist. Productivity will be less, national income will be less. You are using half of the human resources available. So the everything will be affected. So that's why my goal. And my book is coming out in a couple of months. It's called Party Politics, Religion, and Women's Leadership. And this is my new interest. You asked a very nice question. My new interest is how can you promote women's leadership in political parties so that they rise to decision-making at the government level and influence legislation, execution, follow-up, monitoring, and human rights issues. The political environment, when I started working on women's issues, the region has always been suffering from turmoil and trouble. And this is where I was working. I worked on Arab women in the Arab region. Our commission serves most of the Arab countries. So in preparing them for Beijing, for the Beijing conference, and this was my first undertaking, I wanted them to establish, we urged the governments to establish national mechanisms for women. Ministries, committees, supreme councils, commissions. Though the task, the functions of these commissions were to follow up, monitor, evaluate, assess advancements in the issues of women, using the frameworks of international human rights instruments like CEDAW, like Security Council 1325, like the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, like the Violence Against Women declarations. And all of these combined give you a framework where these international instruments can secure human rights for women if implemented. And this is where you find that in most of the Arab countries, although 19 countries out of 22 League of Arab States have signed the Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, they have put a lot of reservations on major articles dealing with the family, with the nationality, with the equality, which is, you know, as I said in my intervention, if you were listening, I mean, you can't sign the convention without implementing it, and by putting reservations on it, saying that it defies the Sharia. It does not if you interpret the Sharia in a women-friendly, enlightened manner. So these main four obstacles or four reservations were not lifted by most of the Arab countries. They are still there. They do not. They talk of stereotyping. They address gender equality. They put a hold on family law, divorce and inheritance and custody, child custody, and all that, personal status, and nationality. Women who marry non-nationals do not have the right to pass their nationality. Now, if my brother, who is Lebanese, marries any girl, any woman, their children would be Lebanese. I am married to a non-Lebanese. My kids, although they were born and raised and went to schools there, they do not hold the Lebanese nationality. I'm talking to you from a personal perspective. And I'm the activist, the feminist. I've been fighting for women's rights. How do you convince governments that this does not change the demography in your country, that you are discriminating against women? And this is not in the constitution, because the constitution states, all Arab constitutions state that women and men are equal before the law. They come and discriminate against you. And even when they say we're not discriminating against you, against women, and the law is with you, when it comes to implementation, there is a gap between the de facto and the de jure. So there's a lot of work, and there are many organizations working on these issues. The UN is not alone. Civil society has to work. This hypocrisy should stop. You should practice what you preach, and you do not use women as tokens. And even when women go to reach the parliament, they do not always advocate for women's rights. So you need to build alliances. Women need to build alliances. Within the parliament, they have to make women's caucuses to push for legislation, for amending legislation that is not good for women. Both. Now, my book is going to be used in graduate courses in universities. But you know something, Anahid? Your question is very good, really, because sometimes you feel that you are speaking to the converted, and you don't need to speak to the converted. People who were in the audience, they are all feminists. They are all in favor of women. They all believe in that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. What needs to be done is to address those who are resistant to change. Whether they are in the Arab world, and there are many of them, and in the West, you need to inform them that not all Arab women are the same. Not all Arab women are ignorant or sitting in tents. Not all Arab societies are regressive. You see, there is diversity. So my articles, my books, my lecture, when I talk so, and this is very important, the media is very important. Disseminating this is very important, because you want people to know that we are fighting for the rights, for women's rights, and we need a platform for that. Otherwise, it will be as if talking to a wall, and you don't want to talk to walls. But we realize that it's a long road. We realize that with the Arab uprisings that happened since 2011 in some of the countries, there are many threats to even for a rollback of the few gains that women have achieved since emancipation. Even the small positive things that we are getting, there is a threat of regression. And that's why my focus in my new book is on party politics, on political parties, and the influence of religion on women's leadership. And the results of a research on 26 countries of different religions, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish, political parties, I'm talking about political parties, is that when the degree of religiosity in the party increases, or they become extremists, women's chances of assuming leadership and decision making and helping other women even diminishes. And this is very, very important. So moderation is the name of the game. Nobody is saying that religions are wrong, but extremism is wrong. Wrong interpretations of religion is wrong, or Sharia. And they should stop focusing on women. Women are not the symbol of religious faith. I mean, women are like men. Why should women be different? So that's the issue. I'll tell you an example. I was once giving a workshop in Yemen. I will never forget this, because we were talking about women's advancement in Yemen, and the influence of polygamy. And then there was this, in front of me, a whole like 10 or 12 women who were with niqab, not even with the hijab shari, covering the hair. And they stood and said, "Why are you talking about this? We are happy to be second wives and co-wives. And we don't want the UN." And that was like 15 years ago. And I tell you, I was shocked. How could any woman accept, in this time and age, to be second or third or fourth even, and to fight me because I'm fighting for their rights? So this was an eye opener. Another incident was I was going to the Gulf countries and meeting with ministers and so on. That was in the mid-90s. And then he said, one of the sheikhs said, you Lebanese, because he asked me, what are you? Where do you come from? I said, Lebanon. I said, you Lebanese, with a very condescending attitude, you know, Papa-like, you know. You are emancipated. But in Arabic, it has double meanings. Okay? And I said, no. Tal umrak, you know, in the sheikh language, you have to address them with respect. We are open-minded and enlightened. We're not emancipated or liberal, as you're saying. So this was, you know, and whenever I went there, I never talked, you know, the important thing is to know the culture. When you go to a country, you have to understand the culture if you want to pass a message. So I would never say, you know, equal, men and women are equal in the Gulf. I would say we're asking, you know, the UN is urging these member states, the UN is urging them to give women equal opportunity as men and let them prove themselves. And this is good for the family, and what is good for the family is good for the society. So they would accept the ideas that being promoted. A third incident, and it's about gender. And I think you will, if you were listening to one of the speakers from Yemen, she mentioned it, but this happened to me. I was on being interviewed, public interview, and I'm not going to say the name of the channel, and she started saying, you UN people, you are talking about gender equality, and you are promoting gender because gender is, you're promoting homosexuality, lesbianism, you know, and all of this. And I said, no, there's nothing in it. Show me in Arabic where the Beijing Platform for Action says this. And if you're bringing me here as a UN to defamate the UN, I will stop talking. But if you want the Arab audience to know what is gender, I will explain to you what is gender. Gender is when the roles are continuously dynamic and changing between men and women, as you see nowadays compared to the past. You know, now men and women, both of them raise the kids. So the roles are changing. The only thing that cannot change is the physical. The fact that women bear children, and the fact that men are more physically strong than women. But this cannot be a detriment for women. Women and men, women can do the same jobs and roles as men, and this is socially constructed. So the values change, and the roles are continuously changing. What you are doing, this is great. I am a great believer in the role of the media. And not only the role of the media as such, but the media can disseminate CEDAW. If you take the convention and explain it, get someone to explain all the articles, and everybody listens to it in a language they understand, so that it enters, because it's knowledge is important. And we cannot say that there is 50% illiteracy among women in the Arab region. This has to be overcome. There is high poverty among women. There's a lot of war and conflict in the region. There is a tripartite relationship: development, peace, and equality. There is no equality without peace, and there is no democracy without development and peace. So it's an interlinked relationship. Okay, this is my message, that media has to be gender sensitive. not to use gender against women. Gender means men and women. And I'm happy that you are working together, you know. It's a team. The world is built on both men and women. You can't forget about women and focus only on men. So that, I think the role of the media is very important, and there is no single magical formula. Media, activism, civil society, political will, these are all important variables, and patience, commitment and patience. We should not be discouraged if we don't get. Battles are made up, wars are made up of small battles. Put a small reachable goal. Once you implement it, you'll be encouraged to move further. You can't win the war all at once. You win it in small battles. There is a network. There's in each country there is the NGOs, either a federation of women or the NGOs get together and work together, collaborate on women's issues. They lobby, they negotiate, they push for action. And look what they did in Morocco. In Morocco, the 1 million signatures helped to change all the family law, the Mudawwana, in 2005. So there is networking, and there used to be an Arab Federation of women NGOs. I think after the Iraq war this broke down, and I'm not sure this is very effective. And there's a Arab women organization in Cairo that there are many organizations, and networking and building alliances is very important. But as important, it's coordination, collaboration amongst these entities. Otherwise, each one will be working, and there will be duplication, and there will be competition. We don't want competition, but there is room for work for everybody. And one of the goals could be achieved, you know, if you take a goal at a time and you build around it supporters through a petition, through using the Twitter, the Facebook. You know, we should use the social media because this also helps. There have been projects, operational activities to improve the situation of women who do not have skills. So through training, re-skilling, income generating projects, microcredits, all of these, you know, the Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus started the microcredit. All of these are avenues, intervention points to help women who are in a position, middle education, skills, they do not have the skills to be trained, and this is what the UN does. Different organizations to be self-reliant. So these are the avenues or the intervention points to empower women economically. Because if you don't, it's education. If you educate women, their economic participation increases. If their economic participation increases, you feel you will their political participation increases. But then, in each of these areas, you have to expand, and they are not mutually exclusive. But if my goal is for women to serve better and to be decision makers in the public sphere, then they have to join political parties. And once they join political parties in large numbers, they will lobby for women to be in leadership positions. And once they lobby for more women to be in leadership positions within the party, then you will expect, theoretically and realistically, that women in these leadership positions within political parties will nominate more women to public office, whether at the municipal level or at the parliamentary level, and to appoint more women in the executive and judiciary positions. So once you see that, once they are nominated, the pool of women increases in leadership positions. And this is what we call creating a critical mass of women in leadership. They have to believe in themselves. They have to believe that they can make a difference. They should not sit at home and say, it's none of my business, I can't do anything. You are doing something, I'm doing something. If everybody does something, then the collective, the team spirit will get us there one day. I don't think it's tomorrow. I think maybe the next generation will benefit from this. But I'm saying that maybe the younger generation should have a different vision, and they should study and analyze where did the older generation go wrong, or where can they improve? What are the new intervention points that they can make? This is where they can make change. They have to believe in themselves and to believe that they can make a difference. And together with getting organized and solidarity, this is possible. Okay? It is long. The road is long. The road is bumpy. But if we are countries in transition to democracy, democracy can ensure gender equality.
بهره برداری امن از موبایل و اینترنت، زن، حقوق فردی و اجتماعی، سازوکارهای جلوگیری از نقض حقوق بشر، پویشی در مفهوم دموکراسی، مروری بر پایگیری نهادهای مدنی در ایران، اندیشه‌های نوین از حقوق کارگران، آموزش خبرنگاری، حقوق شهروندی امروز و محیط زیست. توانا، رایگان توانایی ما را به سمت انسان امروزین جهانی متمدن تازه می کند. برای شرکت در این کلاس ها به توانا.org بروید و با جیمیل مستعار ثبت نام کنید. از طریق فیسبوک، توییتر و شبکه یوتیوب می توانید آموزشکده توانا را دنبال کنید. توانا آموزشکده است برای جامعه مدنی ایران.